What is porphyry molybdenum deposits? Porphyry molybdenum deposits are large, low, to medium-grade mineral systems that form in association with intrusive igneous rocks, typically granitic to quartz-monzonitic in composition. They are one of the most important sources of molybdenum worldwide, often mined as primary deposits or as valuable byproducts from porphyry copper systems. Molybdenum, a silvery-white transition metal, is prized for its strength, resistance to heat, and ability to form alloys with steel, making these deposits strategically significant for modern industry. These deposits form at convergent plate boundaries, where magmas generated from subduction-related processes intrude into the upper crust. The intruding magma chambers release large volumes of hydrothermal fluids enriched in metals such as molybdenum, copper, and tungsten. As these fluids ascend and cool, they interact with surrounding rocks, precipitating molybdenite, the principle or mineral of molybdenum. The mineralization is typically disseminated throughout large volumes of altered rock and is closely tied to stockwork vein systems, breccia zones, and pervasive hydrothermal alteration. Geologically, porphyry molybdenum deposits display characteristic alteration zones arranged around the central intrusive body. The core zone usually shows potassic alteration, biotite and K-feldspar, where molybdenite is most concentrated, followed by concentric halos of felsic, sericite quartz-spirite, argillic, and propylitic alteration. This alteration zoning not only provides clues to the deposit's origin but also guides exploration strategies. In terms of size, porphyry molybdenum deposits can contain hundreds of millions to billions of tons of rock with grades ranging from 0.05% to 0.25% MoS. Although the ore grades are relatively low compared to high-grade vein-type deposits, their vast tonnage makes them economically viable for large-scale, open-pit mining operations. Notable examples include the Climax and Henderson mines in Colorado, USA, which are among the world's largest molybdenum producers. Overall, porphyry molybdenum deposits are not only crucial for global molybdenum supply but also provide insights into crustal magmatic processes, fluid evolution, and large-scale metallogeny at convergent plate margins. How is porphyry molybdenum deposits formed? Porphyry molybdenum deposits form through a complex series of geological and geochemical processes that are closely linked to magmatism and hydrothermal activity at convergent plate margins. Their formation spans from the generation of magma deep in the earth to the crystallization of molybdenite within the upper crust. The process can be broken down into several stages. 1. Magma generation. The story begins in subduction zone settings, where oceanic lithosphere sinks beneath a continental plate. As the oceanic plate descends, it undergoes dehydration, releasing water and volatiles into the overlying mantle wedge. This lowers the melting temperature of mantle rocks, leading to the generation of magmas. These magmas, enriched in volatiles and metals, rise toward the continental crust. For porphyry molybdenum deposits, the magmas are generally felsic in composition, granitic, granodioritic, or quartz-monzonitic, often derived from partial melting of continental crust or through magma differentiation. 2. Magma differentiation and metal enrichment. As the magma chambers evolve, fractional crystallization concentrates incompatible elements, including molybdenum, tungsten, and sometimes copper. Because molybdenum prefers to remain in the melt rather than being incorporated into early-forming silicate minerals, it becomes progressively enriched in the residual magma. This late-stage magma is also highly volatile-rich, containing water, carbon dioxide, chlorine, fluorine, and sulfur, essential for transporting metals in solution. 3. Emplacement of porphyritic intrusions. The evolved, metal-rich magma rises into the upper crust, where it intrudes as porphyritic stocks or dikes. These intrusions typically solidify at shallow depths, 1 to 5 kilometers, providing the heat source that drives hydrothermal circulation. The porphyritic texture, characterized by large crystals, phenocrysts, in a fine-grained groundmass, reflects relatively rapid crystallization as magma ascends and cools. 4. Hydrothermal fluid exsolution. As the magma cools, dissolved volatiles separate from the melt, forming buoyant hydrothermal fluids. These fluids are the primary agents of metal transport. Molybdenum, in the form of complex ions such as MoO4 becomes highly soluble in these chloride and fluoride-rich solutions. The hydrothermal fluids ascend through fractures, faults, and permeable zones, often creating stockwork vein systems. 5. Ore deposition. When the hydrothermal fluids move outward and upward, changes in temperature, pressure, and fluid chemistry cause molybdenum to precipitate as molybdenite. Deposition typically occurs in stockwork quartz veins, sheeted veins, and disseminated zones surrounding the intrusive core. The precipitation is often triggered by cooling of fluids as they move away from the heat source. Fluid-rock interaction that changes pH and redox conditions. Boiling or phase separation, which strips volatiles from the fluid and destabilizes dissolved metals. The result is a broad zone of molybdenite mineralization, often accompanied by quartz, pyrite, and secondary minerals. 6. Alteration zoning. The hydrothermal system also alters surrounding rocks in concentric zones. Potassic alteration, biotite, K-feldspar, in the core, where molybdenite is most abundant. Felsic alteration, quartz-sericite pyrite, further out. Argillic and propylitic alteration at the margins. These alteration halos not only mark the thermal and chemical evolution of the system but also serve as exploration guides. 7. Supergene processes, optional. In some cases, weathering and oxidation at Earth's surface can further redistribute molybdenum. While porphyry copper systems often show strong supergene enrichment, porphyry molybdenum deposits typically retain most of their molybdenite in hypogene, primary, zones, with only minor secondary enrichment. 8. Final deposit characteristics. The end product is a large, low, to medium-grade mineralized body containing hundreds of millions of tons of ore. Ore grades generally range from 0.05% to 0.25% MO, but the massive scale of these systems makes them highly economic. The mineralization is intimately tied to the intrusive center and extends outward in broad, stockwork-dominated zones. In summary, porphyry molybdenum deposits form from felsic magmas enriched in molybdenum and volatiles, which release hydrothermal fluids into the upper crust. These fluids precipitate molybdenite in stockworks and disseminations around shallow porphyritic intrusions, creating some of the world's largest and most important molybdenum resources. What are the types of porphyry molybdenum deposits? Porphyry molybdenum deposits, while sharing common features such as their association with felsic to intermediate intrusive rocks and large-scale hydrothermal systems, can be classified into different types based on their geological setting, intrusive host rocks, metal associations, and tectonic environments. Understanding these types is important not only for academic purposes but also for mineral exploration, since each type has distinctive features that guide geologists in predicting ore distribution and grade. Here is a detailed overview of the main types of porphyry molybdenum deposits. 1. Climax type, high silica, specialized molybdenum deposits. Description. These are classic, molybdenum-dominant deposits hosted in high silica, alkali-rich intrusive rocks such as topaz rhyolites, granites, and granite porphyries. They are called climax type after the world-famous Climax mine in Colorado, USA, which has produced vast amounts of molybdenum. Geological setting. Found in continental, post-subduction or extensional tectonic settings, often associated with highly evolved, differentiated magmas derived from crustal sources. Ore characteristics. High molybdenum grades. Ore is primarily molybdenite with little to no copper. Large tonnages with mineralization concentrated in stockwork quartz molybdenite veins. Alteration patterns. Strong silicic and potassic alteration in the core. Distinctive fluorine-rich minerals, fluorite, topaz, and synvoltite mica, may accompany mineralization. Examples: Climax and Henderson, USA, Endako, Canada, Cuesta, USA. 2. Copper-molybdenum porphyry deposits. Description. These deposits form in subduction-related magmatic arcs, where molybdenum occurs as a byproduct to copper mineralization. They are more copper-rich than climax-type deposits, but molybdenum is still economically significant. Geological setting. Associated with intermediate to felsic calc-alkaline intrusive rocks, granodiorite, quartz monzonite. They are typical of convergent plate margins and are closely related to porphyry copper-gold systems. Ore characteristics. Grades are lower for molybdenum than in climax type. Copper minerals such as chalcopyrite and bornite dominate, with molybdenite forming in later hydrothermal stages. Molybdenum is often concentrated in the deeper or outer zones of porphyry copper deposits. Alteration patterns. Central potassic alteration with chalcopyrite bornite and some molybdenite. Phyllic alteration with quartz-sericite pyrite in outer zones. Examples: Chuquicamata and El Teniente, Chile, Bingham Canyon, USA, and Graberg, Indonesia. 3. Low F, fluorine-poor, porphyry molybdenum deposits. Description. Unlike climax-type deposits, these systems lack the strong fluorine-bearing mineral assemblages. They are less evolved and generally occur in subduction-related settings, overlapping with copper porphyry environments. Geological setting. Typically associated with granodioritic or quartz monzonitic intrusions in continental arcs. Ore characteristics. Ore grades tend to be moderate. Molybdenite occurs in disseminations and quartz veinlets. Limited association with fluorite or topaz, unlike climax type. Alteration patterns. Potassic cores with quartz biotite K feldspar. Broad sericitic halos. Examples: Endako, Canada is sometimes classified here rather than climax type, depending on criteria. 4. Hybrid porphyry copper molybdenum deposits. Description. These deposits show features transitional between copper-dominant porphyries and molybdenum-dominant systems. Molybdenum may be concentrated in late-stage hydrothermal veins cutting through an earlier copper-rich porphyry. Geological setting. Found in subduction-related magmatic arcs, where large intrusive complexes evolve through multiple stages of emplacement and hydrothermal activity. Ore characteristics. Copper dominates in early mineralization. Molybdenite is deposited later, often forming shells or deeper zones around the copper core. Economically important because both Cu and MoS can be mined. Examples: Bingham Canyon, USA, Highland Valley, Canada, and Los Bronces, Rio Blanco, Chile. 5. Specialized tungsten molybdenum porphyry deposits, less common. Description. In rare cases, porphyry systems show significant tungsten enrichment along with molybdenum. These are transitional between classic molybdenum porphyries and Grießen-type tungsten deposits. Ore characteristics. Molybdenite with scheelite. Often associated with late-stage Grießen alteration, quartz-topaz muscovite assemblages. Examples: certain deposits in China, Central Asia, and parts of Eastern Europe. Summary. To simplify, porphyry molybdenum deposits can be grouped as climax type, high silica, MoS dominant, fluorine-rich, extensional settings. Copper molybdenum porphyries, Cu dominant, MoS as a byproduct, subduction zones. Low F porphyry molybdenum deposits, moderately evolved, subduction-related, MoS dominant but without fluorine minerals. Hybrid Cu-MoS porphyries, transition systems with both Cu and MoS. Rare W-MoS porphyries, specialized, transitional to Grießen-type systems. What are the characteristics of porphyry molybdenum deposits? Porphyry molybdenum deposits are distinctive, large tonnage, low to medium grade ore systems that provide a significant share of the world's molybdenum supply. They form in specific tectonic and magmatic settings and exhibit a set of geological, mineralogical, and geochemical characteristics that make them recognizable in the field and valuable in exploration. Below is a detailed discussion of their key characteristics. 1. Geological setting. Found primarily in continental arc or post-subduction extensional settings, where felsic magmas rise into the upper crust. Climax-type deposits often occur in within-plate extensional environments, whereas Cu/Mo porphyries are more typical of active convergent margins. Deposits are commonly associated with granitic to quartz monzonitic intrusions that are highly evolved and volatile rich. 2. Deposit size and/or grades. These deposits are very large in volume, ranging from hundreds of millions to billions of tons of rock. Ore grades are relatively low compared to high-grade vein deposits, usually in the range of 0.05% to 0.25% Mo for climax-type systems, 0.01% to 0.05% Mo in Cu/Mo porphyries, where molybdenum is a byproduct. Despite low grades, their size makes them highly economic and suitable for bulk, open-pit mining methods. 3. Host rocks and intrusions. Hosted by felsic to intermediate intrusive bodies, often porphyritic in texture, large crystals in a fine-grained ground mass. Common rock types include granite, granodiorite, quartz monzonite, and rhyolite. Intrusions are often multiple, with several pulses of magma emplacement, leading to complex mineralization histories. 4. Mineralogy. Or mineral. The primary ore mineral is molybdenite, which occurs in fine flakes or rosettes in quartz veinlets or disseminated throughout the host rock. Gangue minerals. Quartz is the dominant gangue mineral. Fluorite, topaz, and tsinval-type mica are common in climax-type deposits, reflecting F-rich magmas. Pyrite, chalcopyrite, and other sulfides may accompany molybdenite in Cu/Mo porphyries. Accessory minerals. Scheelite, fluorite, and rare Ari-bearing minerals may occur in specialized systems. 5. Ore structures. Mineralization occurs mainly in stockwork vein systems, networks of intersecting quartz-molybdenite veins. Sheeted quartz veins. Disseminated mineralization, molybdenite dispersed in the host rock matrix. Breccia zones filled with quartz and sulfides may also host significant molybdenum mineralization. 6. Alteration zoning. A hallmark of porphyry systems is their concentric alteration zones. Potassic zone, core. Biotite, K-feldspar, quartz. Main molybdenite mineralization is found here. Phyllic zone, intermediate. Quartz, cerussite, pyrite. May host some molybdenite but also abundant pyrite. Argillic zone, outer. Clay minerals, kaolinite, and montmorillonite. Propylitic zone, distal. Chlorite, epidote, carbonate alteration. These zones reflect the thermal and chemical gradient of hydrothermal fluids and help geologists identify the potential location of ore. 7. Hydrothermal fluid characteristics. Hydrothermal fluids are rich in water, chlorine, fluorine, and sulfur, which allows metals like molybdenum to remain soluble until precipitation. Boiling, fluid mixing, and cooling are key triggers for ore deposition. In climax-type deposits, fluids are often enriched in fluorine, leading to formation of fluorite and topaz along with molybdenite. 8. Geochemical signatures. High concentrations of Mo relative to Cu in climax-type deposits. Associated elements include F, W, Sn, Rb, and Li, reflecting highly evolved magmas. Geochemical anomalies in stream sediments or soils, especially elevated Mo, F, and W, are important exploration indicators. 9. Morphology and depth. Deposits typically form at shallow crustal levels, 1 to 5 km depth. The mineralized zone is usually bowl-shaped or stalk-like, centered on the porphyritic intrusion. Vertical extent of mineralization may reach several kilometers, but the richest ore zones are usually within a few hundred meters of the intrusive stock. 10. Economic importance. Porphyry molybdenum deposits supply a major share of global molybdenum, critical for steel alloys, lubricants, catalysts, and high-temperature applications. Some deposits also yield byproducts such as tungsten, copper, rhenium, Re, and fluorite. Because of their large size and low grade, they support long mine lives, often decades, and are developed as large-scale open-pit operations. In summary, porphyry molybdenum deposits are characterized by large tonnages, low to medium grades, molybdenite-rich stockwork and disseminated or concentric alteration zoning, and association with felsic intrusive rocks in continental magmatic settings. They are geologically unique because they form from highly evolved, volatile-rich magmas and represent one of the most important ore deposit types for global molybdenum supply.